Well, hello there to all my followers of darkness, shadow scavengers, and villainy aficionados. Welcome, bienvenue. Well, here I am, guys. After 3 weeks of hiatus, your good old Lord of Shadows has returned. Yep. And what better way to start brand new YouTube videos than doing one of my good old fashioned shadow talks? Or more precisely, about a certain topic, about a certain manga slash anime franchise that not only is my number one, but also one of the greatest ever created of all time, One Piece. More precisely, the Netflix live action One Piece TV series. Now, on everyone's surprise, including my own, One Piece Season 1 became a great hit when it was released in 2023, and now we are we are a week away before One Piece Into the Grand Line is released, more precisely, One Piece Season 2. And of course, all this time, even honestly, even after it was announced that Netflix was planning to do a One Piece live action TV show, I had so many questions and worries in my head after all this time. So many questions and worries. Now we all know, that after Squid Game was over, Stranger Things now as well, Arcane, and a few other TV shows that Netflix considered a big massive hit, to keep viewers subscribed to their platform and everything. Of course, they are searching for new hits, and of course they right now they're thinking, they found it, with One Piece and everything. Now, of course, there are some people saying, well, Stranger Things, is still a thing, even with like Stranger Things 85 coming out and everything. Well, for me personally, I will not see that animated series on the same level as the Stranger Things, TV show and everything. Avatar: The Last Airbender, the live-action version of the animated series from Nickelodeon. No, actually, I think it was Nickelodeon or Cartoon Network. Not quite sure about that. But anyway, the live-action version of the animated version, I mean, right now that TV show itself is like in a gray zone, because there are a lot of people, especially older generations, who grew up with the cartoon, who don't like the TV show, and there's also people who like the TV show. So I would say it's in a gray zone, overall, but still, has a lot of positive vibes and everything, But with One Piece, especially the live action, TV show, Netflix, right now they found a hit. I mean, they greenlighted season 2, and we're in the midst of the production of season 3, which, if my guess is correct, it might come out somewhere at the beginning of 2027, just like One Piece Into the Grand Line season 2, that has done the same, or will do the same, since we're a week away, But anyway, with all that in mind, like I said, there are a few questions and worries, I had ever since, like I said, this TV show was announced. And before I go to the other ones, I'll just go start with this main one, or should I say, I will try to get rid of the biggest elephant in the room right now, which of course is the story is not over yet. Okay, I mean, right now in the manga, we are in the midst of Elbaf arc. Now, the anime, when it comes to Elbaf arc, is going to start on April 5th. And also not forgetting that One Piece from this year onward is going to start doing, seasons and everything. I mean, after 1,156 episodes, which is, by the way, considered season 1, now One Piece, just like all the other animes, or should I say the majority of other animes will start, doing seasons as well. And when it comes to the anime itself, when it comes to season 2 of One Piece, we don't know how many episodes it's going to have. It's going to be like, 13, 20, 24, 26. We don't know. Even the person, I guess, is going to be like 24 or 26, But anyway, so, but going back to the main topic, the story of One Piece is not over yet. Okay. Now, some people, a lot of One Piece fans and casual fans believe that, the One Piece is going to end in a few years. And do you have any idea how many times we heard that story from Ichiro Oda when it comes to One Piece ending? I mean, one time he said, oh, well, in a couple of years. Then one time he said for 5 years. Then one time he said for 10 years. And then one time he said, for 7 years. And every time when he said that, it took longer. So right now where Elbaf arc is standing, I'm telling you, like, we're not going to see the One Piece ending in the manga for like another 10 years. I guarantee you. Because there's still a lot of stuff going on when it comes to, the One Piece storyline. So that's the biggest issue right now for me. I would say the biggest elephant in the room is the overall story. I mean, when it comes to the One Piece live action, TV series, Netflix so far and the crew are secured at least until post-war arc. before the time skip. They're at least secured until then. But then from like Return of Savori, Archipelago arc, which of course is the beginning of the 2 years time skip, that's when basically when it comes to like story wise, and everything, it starts to get a little bit clunky in a way. Now I'm not saying like the stories itself. No, like I'm saying like basically the overall ending and where the story is going and everything. That's what I meant. Even though maybe probably for a lot of people what I just said right now it doesn't make any sense. But the point is still the same. Netflix is secured until post-war arc. After that, it becomes a little bit clunky, challenging actually, and that's the word, challenging. So so that's the first issue I have. When it comes to story-wise, there's a lot of people joking like, by the time when they reach Wano Country or Egghead arc, they're all gonna be old men. They're all gonna be pensioners. Sorry, I had to do it. Anyway, so that's my first issue. The second issue I have is the actor's age. Now, before I go to the Straw Hats, I'm going to go to the recurring characters, okay? Because One Piece has a lot of recurring characters that, they like at first they appear in one arc, and then later on they use somewhere down the line for a bigger storyline. I mean, let's take like for example Buggy. Okay, I don't want to go into deeper spoiler territory because there's a lot of stuff that non-anime viewers and non-One Piece viewers, who just simply started with live action one, they don't know. So I'm going to try to be as spoiler free as possible, but trust me, it's difficult. But still, spoiler warning. From this moment onward, there's a big spoiler warning. Okay. So, like I said, Oda sometimes uses some characters that appear in the early arcs, and then later on he used them for a bigger storyline down the line. And right now, as an example, let's say Buggy. Okay, he first appeared in Orange Town arc, where he was the main villain. Then he appeared in Locktown arc. Then later on he appeared somewhere. When was that scene when he was searching for Captain John's treasure, and then he talked with Portuguese the Ace? I think it was somewhere. I think it was somewhere during Jaya arc or something like that. I think it was something like that. I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Okay, I think it's somewhere like around the Jaya arc. But again, I'm not so sure. Anyway, so we had him appear in that particular moment, and then later on we haven't seen him all the way until Impel Down arc, where basically Luffy and him join forces, and then later on. He escapes alongside him and all the others from Impel Down. Then we see him in Marineford arc, and then we see him a little bit in post-war arc, and then we don't see him until I think at the end of Dressrosa arc, where basically he's revealed, that he's one of the Shichibukai, the bounties and everything, and then after that he appears basically all over the place. Just put it that way. So talking about until post-war arc, if the Netflix TV show resists until then, I would say where the actor is standing when it comes to his age, I think he can still go on as a Buggy like for quite a long period of time, maybe even 10 years, But there are other actors who I doubt they will return. I mean, for example, you have Joe Manganiello, who's going to play Crocodile in season 2. Then you have David Dastmalchian, who's playing Mr. Free, who's also, we have seen him, in Little Garden. We see him in Arabasta arc, and then we don't see him until Impel Down onward. So, and I don't know if David Dastmalchian is going to appear again as Mr. Free. So the point, and also not to mention the character of Garp. Okay, I mean, first of all, the actor who did Garp in season 1 did a fantastic job, absolute fantastic job. Like he really nailed the character. But honestly, I highly doubt that we're gonna see him again as Garp. I mean, I can see him go on a little bit further, but I don't think we're gonna see him maybe at the time of when Marineford arc happens or post-war. Because at that time, which personally, if you ask me, I think we will reach post-war arc maybe in 10 years. And the reason I'm saying minimum 10 years, because I have a vision, if they want to stay on course, there's one way, this could only happen. But again, I'm going to get a little bit later on that. So I think that the guy is like 59 or 60 right now. So by the time the post-war arc, finishes or at least starts, he's gonna be like 69 or 70 years old. If we're sticking with the 70, if we're sticking with the 10 years gap and everything. So here, so I don't think, personally, I don't think he's gonna be playing Garp, that long, honestly. But I can still see him, kind of keep on going for at least for a little bit. So the main thing the reason why I'm saying why I'm talking about this is because is that with all of this in mind, that means that they're gonna have to do some recasts of certain characters, because like, I mean, some people might be like, well, let's just make them, they don't use these characters anymore. It's not gonna happen. Okay, it's not gonna happen because Oda uses so many characters throughout the entire One Piece storyline. He used so many characters that we first saw him in the first arcs, and then he used them somewhere down the line in a much more bigger storytelling. So like it's impossible. Especially Garp, Buggy, Alvida, Vivi, Sengoku or Kobe, Helmeppo, Doflamingo, Bartholomew Kuma. Like there's so many characters that are recurring characters, throughout the entire like One Piece storyline. Especially, for example, some of these characters in later on appear as the main villains. Like for example, Don Quixote Doflamingo in Dressrosa arc, or even like Bartholomew Kuma, not as a villain, but like the overall usage of him, when it comes to storytelling. I mean, we saw him a little bit in Thriller Bark. We saw him a little bit, in the Marijoa summoning, which was before Thriller Bark. We saw him, in Marineford, and then basically he played, and then of course, we saw a smidge of him later on until he became a key component to Egghead arc, especially his backstory, which is heartbreaking. That's at least that's what I can say. So, and even though, and the reason why I'm saying this, and the reason also why I think, before I go to the Straw Hats and everything, the reason why I think that perhaps there is a chance that Netflix actually is seeing that they could not last long, with a live action TV show is because, they're introducing so many characters that were introduced in the manga and anime way later on. They made them introduced early. I mean, there are certain characters, I'm not going to say who, but like there are rumors, that about certain characters that are appearing in season 2, characters that we haven't seen until way later on in One Piece, especially after the 2 years time skip. I mean, take an example when it comes to Garp. I mean, first and foremost, he wasn't present in Roger's execution, and he wasn't introduced that early in the manga. He was introduced way later on, especially as Luffy's grandfather. So I can kind of see them why they're doing this. Instead, with the risk of maybe not continuing the TV show, they're trying to introduce the characters a little bit earlier, some of the iconic characters that appear later on. So yeah, but for me personally, the only conclusion I can give to this when it comes to recurring characters is if they recast them somewhere down the line. I mean, Kobe and Helmeppo, I actually kind of guessed that somewhere down the line, especially in Post and his lobby arc, I can kind of see them maybe being recasted because they aged and they changed and everything. But all the others, if they wish to continue, they're going to have no other choice but to recast them. Now we go to the Straw Hats now. Okay, so I think I'm going to butcher his name, but the actor who portrays Monkey D. Luffy, Inaki Godoy, I think I pronounced it correctly. If I didn't, I apologize. The guy is in his early 20s. I think he's 22 or 23. So I can still see him go on at least he until he's 32. I can still see him go on. The actor who's gonna play Portugas the Ace in season 3, he's also I think in his early 20s. I think 23, 22, something like that. Maybe 24. I'm not sure. I mean, by the way, if you don't know what I'm talking about, he's the guy who was in Cobra Kai. He played Blue Beetle in DCU, and probably he's gonna play him in the DCU as well. He's gonna play Portugas the Ace and everything. So I can even see him, go all the way to Marineford arc and everything. But the rest of Straw Hats, I mean, I'm sorry to say this, but all the actors are either late 20s or early 30s. And personally, for me, I don't see them last long. Now, one of my friends, who's also a big One Piece fan, he believes that every single one of them could last until the end of post-war arc, and then after that, which is the start of the 2 years time skip, they can recast all the Straw Hats, because they're going to be a little bit older and everything, so that was kind of like my friend's idea, which is not bad. Absolutely, it's not a bad idea, but honestly, for me, I don't know if they will last long, because it all depends how far it will take for them to go all the way to post-war arc. Because it's a really big question. For me personally, I think they're gonna last maybe a few more seasons, 2 or 3, give or take, and then after that, they're gonna have to start recast them. I mean, look, we can all agree that the actors who portray the Straw Hats are phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. No complaint about that. But when it comes to their age, somewhere down the line is going to happen. They're going to get maybe too old for the roles and everything, and then they're going to have to be recast. I mean, in the actual manga and anime, like the oldest members of the Straw Hat Pirates were always Frankie, Nico Robin, Brook, and Jinbei. They were always the oldest characters. But even then, I mean, well, at the time when we come to Frankie and Brook, they I think that they will last until post-war arc. By the time when we go to them, but all the others before, I think if they wish to keep the One Piece TV show alive, I think they're gonna have to recast them. Now I know there's gonna be some problem. People saying why did you recast Nami or Zoro or Sanji or Usopp? Because they were great and everything. I get it. I absolutely get it. So that could be also one of the reasons why maybe the TV show, will not last long. I mean, that's a really big question and a worry, for me. But I think also the age gap and everything, I think it's a big issue, for me, because in the actual anime and manga, all the Straw Hats, besides the ones I just named a little bit before, all the Straw Hats are they're either in their late teens or early to mid 20s. Right now where they are. And but again, we just, for that part we're just gonna have to wait and see. Now the third issue I had is the length of the episodes and the arcs. Now the reason why season 1 had Romance Dawn, Orange Town, Syrup Village, Baratie, and Arlong Park, the reason why they did all these 5 arcs in one season is because all these arcs were short. Same thing with Into the Grand Line, season 2. We're gonna have Lockdown, Reverse Mountain, we're gonna have Whiskey Peak, we're gonna have Little Garden, and then Drum Island. All those arcs are fairly short, and they could be done in one season. However, in season 3, we're gonna go towards Arabasta arc. Now, from Arabasta onwards, the arcs are going to start to get longer and longer and longer. I mean, throughout the manga and anime, sure, there are some arcs that are very short, for example, Long Ring, Long Land, or the Reverie arc, or the first time they came to Archipelago Sabaody, which is literally the Archipelago Sabaody arc, or post-war arc, or post-Enies Lobby arc. There are a few arcs that are short, but from Arabasta onwards, Skypiea, Warrior 7, Enies Lobby, Marineford, Whole Cake Island, Dressrosa, Egghead, Punk Hazard, Fishman Island, Impel Down. All these arcs are very, very long. From 40 episodes all the way to 191. And the reason I said 191 is because that's the Wano Country is the longest One Piece arc in entire One Piece history. I mean, for an anime, it had 191 episodes, and I'm really curious how the hell they're gonna do that. The farthest they can go is split the arc in 2 seasons, and not to mention from 8 episodes going to 15 to 16 episodes. Because as we go further into the One Piece storyline, a lot of the arcs will contain so many twists, so many plot elements, so many revelations that are later down the line are going to be very, very important. And it's going to be difficult to try to make one long arc into 8 episodes. So that means they're gonna have to make the episodes from like 1 hour to 1 hour and 40 minutes or 2 hours long, which is impossible, or extend 8 episodes to like maybe 15 or to 16 episodes, because only then I can see them doing having a chance to kind of like put all these arcs like in one season and everything. Which of course, like I say, as we go down the line, it's gonna get more difficult and difficult than ever. So that's my one of my others biggest issues. And also not to mention that if they wish to keep on going until like post-war arc, at least until post-war arc, they're gonna have to release every new season every other year. Like for example, One Piece season 2 we have in it's gonna be released right now, in 2026, a week from this day, like a week in a week. Then that means the season 3 is gonna have to be released in 2027. Then season 4 in 2028, season 5 in 2029, season 6 in 2030, and so on and so forth. They're gonna have to release every season, like every new season every new year. Now, if they keep on track like that, they can reach post-war arc, maybe, I don't know, in 10 years, or maybe a little bit shorter. I don't know. But with everything going on outside Netflix, outside the One Piece production, like there's going to be, there could be a lot of things that could easily pause the production or make it, slower, rather than faster. So there could be a lot of things going on that could like postpone the production. So that's also one thing that you have to take in consideration. And the last thing I had as an issue is the budget, because just like with the length of the episodes and the story, as we go further, One Piece is going to get more and more bonkers. And not to mention when we reach Fishman Island. Oh my God, Fishman Island, there's going to be so much need of CGI that I cannot explain. Because I can guarantee you, Fishman Island, there's no fucking way you can do it, with just prosthetics and set buildings and makeup and things like that. Like there's going to be a lot of characters and a lot of atmosphere that's going to have to be done with CGI. Not to mention, like I mentioned, not to mention characters. But that's not, but again, that's not even the biggest issue. The biggest part of the budget is going to be the Dollfruits. Because as we go along, there's going to be much more crazier Dollfruits, somewhere down the line. And I think when it comes to Dollfruits, they're going to be one of the biggest problems when it comes to the budget. Absolutely. Not just simply with the, Chopper, not simply, because people think like, the Chopper is going to be the only CGI thing. No. Chopper is not going to be the only CGI thing going on. There's going to be a lot of different things. I mean, let's not forget Brook, who's a fucking skeleton. That also is going to need CGI. There's like I said, as we go further, the One Piece anime, like the One Piece storyline is going to get crazier and crazier. So the budget's going to have to go bigger and bigger. And I don't know how far Netflix is going to willing to go. I don't know. I really don't know how far they're willing to go. Now, some people say, "Oh, well, what about if they skip some arcs?" You cannot do that. Because, maybe there are some arcs you can skip, but again, maybe like one or two, honestly, or make it in one episode. But others, there's no fucking way you can do that, because every single one of them is important when it comes to storytelling and plot information. So it's not possible. Absolutely not possible. So I don't know. We shall have to wait and see how long it will take, for Netflix actually to bear to have One Piece being, released and everything when it comes to the live action TV show. I mean, Netflix is also notorious for the cancel button, so not just simply. So, we just have to wait and see how long they're going to take it. I mean, my personal guess, I think One Piece is going to last, like the live action TV show. It's going to last maybe until Skypiea. And after that, I think it might get canceled. That's my guess. It's a real shame, because I always wanted to see, my main man Gecko Moria, in live action and everything. But I don't know. I don't know if they'll be able to reach Thriller Bark. I don't know if they will be able to do it. But again, we had to wait and see. So far, I only say this: I wish the crew behind the One Piece live action TV show all the luck in the world, especially the actors, and we just have to wait and see whether how this is gonna go. Maybe they will land. Maybe they will, successfully land until post-war arc. But again, like I said, we have to wait and see. But until then, here I am. I'm done, guys. Read the video, comment, like, subscribe. Personal thoughts about what do you think about how long it will last. The Netflix One Piece live action TV show. How long it would last? What do you think it's going to get canceled? Do you think some of the actors are going to get recasted alongside the Straw Hats? Just simply give me your overall general thoughts in the comment section down below. Also, if you're interested to see our previous Shadow Talk episodes, or they're going to be in the video description down below as well. But until then, stay tuned for more. See you guys next time. And as always, Lord of Shadows signing off, or as I like to say, later, fuckers.